And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special segment at the 9 o'clock news on Wednesday. Well, as we know, on Wednesdays we come at 9 o'clock rather than 10 o'clock. I know it's a little bit confusing, but that's the way it goes. Right now, we have some news that we need to quickly get through because there's lots that we need to really talk about. And of course, with those case numbers that are increasing, once again, welcome to this show, streaming live to your device all the way from Brisbane, where currently the temperature is 70 degrees and it's cloudy and overcast. Well, right now, let's get into the news. And of course, looking at New South Wales, 168,000 jabs have been done.
While in a prolonged lockdown, there's one number people can be happy to help increase.
Doing for the community, doing for ourselves.
5.2 million vaccines have now been given in New South Wales.
I have to work, so I have to get vaccinated.
We now have nearly 52% of our population across the state with at least one jab.
The numbers are growing the fastest in Sydney's west and southwest. In the past week, 8% of people aged 15 and over received their first vaccination. So now 53% of people in the Blacktown area have had at least one dose. In the southwest, it's 46%. That means rates in those areas are getting closer to other parts of the city. And then from tomorrow, the Pfizer from Poland will start to become available to people aged 16 to 39 in the local government areas of concern.
We believe that we can deliver the full 530,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine into the arms of people in the 12 LGAs in 2.5 weeks.
Within those areas, there are 7 suburbs causing the most concern. Overall, the case numbers are more than 400 for the 4th day in a row. Less than a third can be linked, and only 100 were definitely in isolation while infectious.
We envisage that case numbers in the next 2 or 3 weeks will bounce around and are likely to go up substantially. And we have to brace ourselves for that. But our key aim will be keeping people out of hospital and keeping people alive.
A woman in her late 70s has died in Westmead Hospital. The number of people in COVID wards has now increased substantially to 447. And there's spread of the virus within hospitals, from outbreaks at Canterbury, Nepean and at St George.
The result of that, just in that one fairly small case, has taken out 80 health staff. There's absolutely no question that the hospital system is under enormous pressure.
The government-run Breast Screen New South Wales has shut down temporarily because of the current risk. After providing a bleak outlook yesterday, the Premier moved to create a more positive picture today. And despite where the state is at, Gladys Berejiklian reassured people life will change in September and October.
I want to make that very clear. Does it mean we'll be living completely freely? No. But does it mean we'll be freer than what we're living today? Absolutely.
But she still refuses to say how hitting her 6 million vaccination target will translate into more freedoms next month. Ashley Raper.
And of course, that is something that we'll need to be keeping an eye on and find out what's really happening. It is alarming at the rate that the cases have grown, but authorities are doing what they can, and that delivery from Poland, the Polish one, is a very, very welcome news of that huge number of vaccine coming in. Well, right now, let's go to ACT, where it is also the numbers are growing as well.
Another day, another jump in case numbers.
We've recorded 17 new cases overnight. It brings the active number of cases to 45.
Canberrans were bracing for bad news after waking to find the list of exposure sites had blown out to more than 80. Among the close contact locations are 2 CIT campuses. 3 people who were on site last week have tested positive to COVID-19. Those there at the same time are now in quarantine.
I cried. I literally cried. I was so scared.
A number of gyms, pubs, petrol stations and fast food outlets have also been added to the close contact list. The new casual exposure sites include a number of stores at Westfield Belconnen, and for the first time, Western Creek is in the mix. Both Aldi and Woolworths are now listed.
When I was monitoring New South Wales exposure locations and Victoria locations, I was hoping that we would never be in that position, but we will reach 100 locations probably tomorrow or the next day.
The Chapman Primary School community is also on high alert. A positive COVID-19 case worked at the after-school care centre twice while infectious. At the aged care village in Tuggeranong, where a positive case worked 3 shifts, there is some relief.
The good news is that at this time, no further cases have been identified connected to this outbreak.
But transmission of the virus has taken place at 6 other locations. 4 cases are now connected to the Lyneham High outbreak. 3 are connected to the positive case at Gold Creek School. Another 3 have been linked to the Downer Community Centre, and 6 have been identified as part of the Fiction nightclub cluster.
Of the current 45 cases in the outbreak, we are confident that 37 of those have confirmed linkages. 8 are still under investigation.
The number of close contacts in the ACT is now more than 7,500. The pressure on testing sites is still immense.
Yesterday we had an all-time record level of tests conducted, 7,380.
The gates were shut at Epic around 3 o'clock to give staff a chance to catch up. At Western Creek, the situation wasn't much better. A panicked Elena waited 4 hours for her turn.
We have to comply. It's something that we have to do just to make sure that everyone's safe. And it was like me, my mum, my sister, my dad. So it was all of us in line for 4 hours just waiting.
Of course, health workers are among the thousands now in quarantine, adding more pressure to the already stretched system. So much so, the Health Minister is calling for new recruits.
If you have a nursing background and you want to volunteer your services, if you're not currently working as part of the COVID-19 response, please do get in contact with Canberra Health Services.
As the threat of COVID-19 grows in the ACT, the need to get vaccinated has never been greater. Dr. Joe Ogan sees this stark reality as a call to action.
We believe as a practice that the number one goal at this point for us is to keep Canberra safe and ensure that we get as much vaccines into arms as possible.
He's rented out this space in Nichols to use as an AstraZeneca hub from next week.
So at the hub, we will be able to deliver at least about 100 to 120 vaccines into arms every day.
A timely reminder that we all have a role to play to keep our community safe. Rosie King, ABC.
Community needs to be kept safe, but looking at the numbers and all the growing things, epidemiologist says that we can expect more numbers and the numbers to be growing.
Let's get some expert analysis of where we're at with COVID across the country. Clinical epidemiologist Nancy Baxter joins us now. Good morning, Nancy. Thank you, as always, for coming on News Breakfast. You've heard what's going on in New South Wales, Victoria, the latest this morning. Let's have a look at New South Wales first. What's your sort of biggest concern there, given the Premier is saying we've got to expect substantial rises in cases?
Well, you know, it's going to take some time for the stricter lockdown restrictions to take effect. And given that they're starting at such a high number of cases, you know, they're going to have large increases in cases until that happens, probably in a week or two. So I think we're going to be seeing pretty confronting numbers. And my main concern about that is the impact on the healthcare system, which is already really strained, and that's only going to get worse. You know, I think that at these numbers it's still manageable, but by manageable I don't mean manageable in any sustainable way or in any way that's really acceptable to the people that are having to deal with caring for patients in really suboptimal circumstances. The other thing I'm really concerned about is regional New South Wales and what's going to happen with the, you know, multiple outbreaks that they have in regional New South Wales, where There's a lot less, capacity in the healthcare system, and a lot of really, truly vulnerable populations who, have a much higher risk of getting sick from COVID. So those are my two main concerns in New South Wales.
And in Melbourne.
And of course, there are concerns about the regional areas, and that is a very, very valid concern. And the numbers are growing, and the services in the regional areas are not as adequate as they are in the major cities. So those are very, very valid reasons that she has. Well, right now, if anyone's been following social media or been watching the news, you cannot go past what's been happening in Afghanistan. Those scenes of the aircraft leaving and desperate people trying to cling on to an aircraft, scenes like that have never been seen before. Just imagine being one of those persons who's there. What would be going in his mind and heart? He's trying to cling on, and the person who had to then let go and fall from the sky. What would be, the minute that he's losing hold, the minute that he's letting go, and when he actually falls, what would have gone through his mind? So we are fortunate to be living in a country, like where we are. And there are people who are trying to get out at all means, looking at all those scenes, it is heartbreaking, it's devastating to see that. And of course, we've seen the large aircraft carriers, which was packed like sardines with the number of people on board. And they didn't have seats, they were all sitting on the ground. So they are big aircraft carriers, army type aircraft. Well, looking at all that, what is Australia's response? What is Australia going to be doing? What would our policy be?
Should we be thinking about assisting a broader group of people to leave Afghanistan, not necessarily to come to Australia, but people like prominent women, civil servants and the like, to get processed in another country, possibly to be resettled?
Well, the short answer is yes, and the Prime Minister's been very clear about that. We've had a look at some cases where people may not be eligible under the locally employed visa program, and those people could be eligible under the humanitarian program. There are also some extended family members that may be eligible under the humanitarian program and will bring people in through that means, but already we're looking at other people, and obviously the humanitarian situation dictates that we can provide assistance, we will, and I think as this evolves over a period of time, there will be other people who will seek refuge either to Australia or to Europe or to America, etc., and we'll see how that plays out.
A situation like this, undoubtedly will create a number of refugees and people seeking asylum in many countries, and as this is all compared to the fall of Saigon. Similar situation is what's been predicted. So, at this point in time, all the countries will be, if they are doing what they can on humanitarian grounds, as was mentioned by the Minister there, we might have to look at some of the rules being relaxed a little bit and doing what is the call and the need of the time. Well, right now, let's go to our news segment, which is the PIO News, coming all the way from Delhi. It's a new collaboration between PIO TV and Australian Indian Radio. PIO TV, which has been run by Munish Gupta and his dad Kayan Gupta, was the editor of that, and have been very closely associated with the Indian diaspora. Munish has been associated with GoPio International and the PIO NRI, the Chamber of Commerce, and many things like that. So it's wonderful to see that. Well, right now, let's go to today's segment of PIO TV.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you glimpses of the changing India and the growing engagement of the Indian diaspora with India. In our first story, with the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban, India has recalled its ambassador, is evacuating diplomats and citizens while also offering a new emergency visas to Afghans seeking asylum. Following the capture of power in Afghanistan by the Taliban after ousting the government, India has recalled its ambassador in Afghanistan, and India's Home Ministry on 17th August 2021 announced a new category of visa to fast-track applications of Afghans seeking asylum. The External Affairs and Home Ministries of India said a new category of electronic visa was created called E-Emergency X-MISC visa. The situation had deteriorated considerably, said External Affairs spokesman Arindam Bagchi. Hindu and Sikh Afghan representatives were in touch with India and will be facilitated for visas, so also other Afghans who had supported India's efforts and development projects. Meanwhile, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is attending the United Nations Security Council session with India as the President. On 16th August 2021, the Security Council held an emergency meeting on Afghanistan, the second time in just over the 10 days under India's presidency for the month of August, to discuss the rapidly deteriorating situation in the war-torn country. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with Dr. S. Jaishankar on Monday and discussed the ground situation in Afghanistan and possible steps going forward. Also, 140 Indians, including the last of the Indian Embassy staff, Indo-Tibetan border police personnel and 4 media persons took off from the Kabul airport on board a special military flight on August 17th morning. The flight, a C-17 Globemaster, was one of the 2 military aircraft operated by the Indian Air Force for the purpose of bringing home all Indian personnel from the embassy. At the UNSC meeting, India's permanent representative T.S. Tirumurthy said the situation was of great concern to India. With media showing fleeing and desperate Afghan citizens, thousands of Afghans in India, including students across the country, watch in fear for the future of women, children and young men. India and Trinidad and Tobago wish to enhance bilateral trade and expand collaboration to help the island nation recover from COVID-19. With almost 42% of its total population of Indian descent, Trinidad and Tobago has shared a very long and deep relationship with India, which dates back to 1845. Both countries are the largest economies in their respective regions. On 16th August, the second round of bilateral Foreign Office consultation was held in Port of Spain. Secretary East of Indian Ministry of External Affairs, Mrs. Riva Ganguly Das, led India, and Mr. Bruce Lai, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, led the other side. Satisfied with trade and economic cooperation, partners agreed to explore opportunities to enhance bilateral trade and investments. Of particular interest is cooperation in the post-COVID-19 recovery period in health and pharmaceuticals, information and communication technology, information technology-enabled services, science and technology and space, renewable energy, agriculture, food processing, tourism, hotel and hospitality industry. The government of Trinidad and Tobago thanked the Indian side for the assistance provided under the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program and discussed potential projects under the International Solar Alliance. The Trinidad and Tobago delegation thanked India for the donation of vaccines. Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will preside over 2 signature events of the UN Security Council. Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will be presiding over 2 high-level signature events on August 18th and 19th in New York during India's presidency of the United Nations Security Council. The first event on August 18, 2021 will be an open debate on protecting the protectors, technology and peacekeeping, while the second event on August 19, 2021 will be a high-level briefing on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts. Both these topics are priorities for India during its UNSC innings. The open debate on peacekeeping will focus on the theme of protecting the protectors, including through the use of modern technological tools to enhance the safety and security of peacekeepers. India and the UN will sign an MOU to roll out the Unite Aware platform, a situational awareness software program that allows a peacekeeping operations center to visualize and analyze the ground situation in a conflict zone on a real-time basis. On 19th August, Jai Shankar will preside over a briefing session on the 6th monthly report of the UN Secretary General on the threat posed by ISIL or Daesh under the agenda item Threats to International Peace and Security Caused by Terrorist Acts. The US has eased travel restrictions to India, lowering the COVID-19 risk level to 2 or moderate. Due to the improving COVID-19 situation in India, the US government has eased its travel advisory for India on 16th August 2021, lowering it to the status of level 2 or moderate. This level is considered as safe, but travelers are told to observe precautions and follow medical protocol. Some time back, India was at level 4, with the US asking its citizens not to travel to India during the devastating second wave of COVID-19. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention has now issued a level 2 travel health notice. The State Department said, quote, "Your risk of contracting COVID-19 and developing severe symptoms may be lower if you are fully vaccinated with an FDA authorized vaccine. Before planning any international travel, please review the CDC's specific recommendations for vaccinated and unvaccinated travelers." End quote. But the State Department urged Americans not to travel to Jammu and Kashmir except the eastern Ladakh region and its capital Leh due to terrorism and civil unrest. They have also been advised not to travel within 10 kilometers of the India-Pakistan border due to the potential for armed conflict. India's cricket team scored a magnificent victory over the English at the historic Lord's Stadium in the UK. In a dramatic comeback, first with the bat and then with the ball, on the 5th day of the Test match, India beat England by 151 runs. India recorded an emphatic and showstopper win over hosts England in a cricket test match on 16th August 2021. This is India's third test triumph at the historic Lord's Cricket Ground in England. India gained a 1-0 lead in the 5-match test series. Indian skipper Virat Kohli said the tension on the field motivated his players to push for a win at all costs. Indian team beat England by 151 runs after bowling out the hosts for 120 in just 51.5 overs on the final day. England were favoured to win after the first half hour of play as India lost their overnight batsmen Rishabh Pant and Ishant Sharma, and India tottered at 209 for 8. Miraculously and meticulously, the Indian tailenders dug in and did it in style. India stormed back in the contest with a record 9th wicket partnership between Mohammad Shami and Jasprit Bumrah. They stunned the English fast bowlers with their batting techniques. The duo took the score from 209 to 294 by lunch, with Shami bringing up his second test half-century. India declared the innings in the middle of the 110th over with 298 runs on board. Then the Indian pace battery of Mohammad Siraj, Jasprit Bumrah, Ishant Sharma and Mohammad Shami swung the match in India's favour. Malayalam movie buffs can look forward to an entertaining and comic Malayalam film Home with actors like Indrans and Srinath Basi. Here is a look at the trailer. Amazon Prime Video will screen the Malayalam language film Home starting 19th August 2021. The nearly 3-minute long trailer of the film is engaging, entertaining and suggests a fun experience. The trailer features Indrans, the award-winning veteran actor of Malayalam cinema, with a balding head, aged and active, ready to learn from his young son the ways of the smartphone generation. Srinath Bhasi is his older son, who is an aspiring filmmaker, and Naslane, the younger one, is a smartphone addict. Manju Pillai plays the mother, cracking sarcastic lines with the sons. In an interview, Indran said that he could relate to his character in the film, for like him, he too is not comfortable with technology or social media. The film highlights the generation gap between parents and children, and the actor found that appealing. Srinath Bhasi says that the film makes one question the importance given to relationships versus the technology challenges faced by the older generation. That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report. Thank you for watching.
Ankita. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is our new segment, which is in collaboration with PIO TV, and we'll bring that to you on a daily basis. And we'd like to get your feedback on that segment. It's a newly introduced segment, and we'd like to see, if it is something that we'd like to continue. We meaning all of us here who are watching that, and do give us your feedback on that segment, and we will keep that. So next up, we will be looking at the weekly real estate update with Usa Chandra, but that's coming up at 10 a.m. Until then, it's goodbye from me. Thank you so much for being with us.